Okay, guys. So, welcome everyone. In fact, if I just quickly share my PowerPoint presentation. So, welcome. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Ryan, and I currently work in the customer success team. I'm sure I've spoken to many of you who are attending this meeting already, but lovely to meet you if I haven't already. So, what this session is going to entail is pretty much just discussing the tenancy journey. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have probably used Arthur, probably quite experienced in Arthur at the moment, or you might be just new, which is absolutely fine. But the idea of this session is to take you guys through the tenancy journey and pretty much how it's structured within Arthur at the moment. Now, you will see that I will discuss a few different sort of terms that you might be familiar with, you might not be, but the understanding here is that the tenancy journey is very, very flexible, okay? And you guys can obviously adapt it in a way that works for your business, okay? Because obviously we've got a variety of different clients which will have different processes in place, and yeah, the flexibility of Arthur is probably going to be quite a good asset for all of you, okay? So, in terms of, obviously, just need to read the privacy, the copyright notice. So if you guys just sort of take a moment just to read that. Okay. Cool. Now, today's agenda is pretty much going to follow the points on the screen. So we're pretty much going to take you guys through the entire tenancy journey from pre-tenancy, so the beginning of when adding an applicant into the system, processing viewings, creating what we call prospective tenants, or a tenancy, should I say, processing, any form of referencing, and also sending out your documents such as, your ASTs or your tenancy agreements, your guarantor forms, and so on, sending those out through the system for digital signature and the process behind that. And hopefully, if we get enough time towards the end, we can have sort of a little Q&A. Now, just to let you guys know, you will see a little box in the middle of your screen, the Q&A box. So if you guys just have questions that crop up throughout the session, please pop them in there. And what I'll probably do is actually circle round to those later, just so that way we can sort of keep organized, keep on track, and then, yeah, if you guys have any questions, just pop them in there and then I can always cover them at a later point. Okay, cool. So if I show you guys pretty much Arthur, so I'm sure a lot of you guys have been using Arthur at this stage. So just to let you guys know, what you guys see in front of you is just your dashboard, right? So from here, this will actually be quite useful in terms of the tenancy journey, because there's a lot of things that will jump out at you that will be quite important, okay? Now, in fact, actually, one thing that I did want to show you guys just before we do move on is just a preview of the tenancy journey, okay? Now, this is what we would consider the tenancy journey from start to finish, but today's session is actually based on pretty much halfway through, okay? So looking at everything prior to becoming a current tenancy, okay? So as you can see, Arthur will always have an applicant to begin with. Okay, they'll always enter as an applicant, so you'll have very basic details that you can enter for purposes of pushing them forward to process a viewing, okay, right through to creating what we call a prospective tenancy, and then eventually they'll become approved, which will then eventually allow them to move in and become current tenancy. Okay, now just to let you guys know, this is something that I will mention throughout. But where you see all of these green boxes that appear, this is what we typically call automations, okay? And it will become more evident as we go through the process of adding viewings, creating prospective tenancies, and so on. But the whole idea of it is a way for Arthur to automatically push texts or emails or create tasks as and when you do something in the system, okay? So yeah, when we create a viewing, for instance, you can have a set of automated emails or texts generate and send out to, for instance, the viewer or the current housemates and so on within the house. Okay, so I will make all of this clear as we go through the process, but just to make you guys aware, if I do mention automations, that is typically what I'm referring to. Okay, so if we now go into Arthur, and as per that tenancy journey here that I've just showed you guys on the screen, the first process, or to begin the process, should I say, the first step in the process would be to add an applicant. Okay, now there are a few different ways that an applicant could be added in the system. Now, if we go through just a normal, typical way of adding it manually, what you guys would need to do is simply click into where it says clients, and then you've then got an option here to select for applicants. Now, this will show you all of the different applicants across the entire system. And the idea with applicants is that they can simultaneously be a tenant. Okay, so you'll add them in with very basic details to begin with the idea of processing viewings, like I've said, which will eventually mean that they become a full tenant and become as part of a tenancy. So as you can see on my screen, this is the applicants page. There's a lot to do on this page. There's a lot of different filters that you can apply, or you can simply search for applicants if you need to. Now, if we went ahead and just added in an applicant at this stage with very, very basic details, we simply go into add applicant in the top right corner. Okay. Now, at this stage, what I would recommend doing is, because there's simply an applicant that has made an inquiry, whether it's through a website, whether it's through one of the marketing portals that you guys use to market your units, or whether they've picked up the phone and given you guys a call. If you go into Arthur, I would always recommend adding in, at the very least, 3 very, very basic details. Okay, namely the first name, surname, and also the email for that particular applicant. Okay, and I'll show you guys why in just a minute. So if I go ahead and let's just call this person Stacy, okay, and we go ahead and add in Teddy's email. In this case, I'm just going to add in my test email. Now, this is optional, okay, but you guys can add in a mobile number as well at this stage. Okay, and it will again become particularly evident in just a minute. But if I just add in whatever numbers. Now, in this case, obviously, I've added in the first name, surname, email, and their number. So that's technically 4 bits of information. But if you don't want to type in their mobile number at this stage, then you can just leave that blank. Okay. Now, once we go ahead and add the applicant, Arthur will then take us to this page, which will represent the applicant's profile. Okay. Now, there's a few different things that you guys can do within the applicant's profile. As you can see, you can actually amend any of their personal information. So this is the information that we've just added in. So if you wanted to edit and add any more information at this stage, if you feel that's necessary, you can do. Okay. Now, also, you guys can, in fact, send out messaging through the system to this applicant. So let's say this person has made an inquiry. Okay. And at this stage, you haven't actually confirmed a viewing appointment with them, right? If you wish to actually process and initiate a message thread from Arthur to the applicant for the purpose of obviously keeping all of that information and the back and forth in one place, then you guys can simply go into messages and post a message from here, okay? This will obviously give you the facility to add in a subject, the body of the email, and obviously just down here, as you can see, email will be the primary method of sending out this quote unquote message. And just to let you guys know, if you do send out an email via this process of just simply posting a message in the applicant's profile, then when that applicant decides to respond, right, that response will feed back into Arthur, so it's kept in the same thread, okay? You do, I'm sure that you've noticed as well, you can see just below that you do have the option to send an SMS, which, if you don't know already, is just a text message that you guys can push out from Arthur. However, just to let you guys know, messages in the form of a text or an SMS through Arthur will always be one way. Okay, so if I sent out this SMS text to my applicant asking him to confirm a viewing appointment, what date or what time, that response will never feed back into Arthur, okay, and you guys will never see it. So just to let you guys know, if you ever do want to send a text, maybe it's something that you might want a particular tenant or an applicant to see that particular message that you're sending out instead of just an email, then it might be worth within that text message saying where they should actually send their response to, right? So maybe give your personal number or an email and so on, okay? But I do appreciate that this might be a longer-winded process to maybe discuss with the tenant, the applicant, sorry, exactly when they would like to confirm and attend a viewing appointment at the property that they're making an inquiry for. So instead, if you guys are just happy giving them a call, then that's absolutely fine. But yeah, again, the idea here is that you've got the facility to send out messaging through directly via the applicant's profile. Okay. Now, hypothetically, this particular tenant or this applicant, sorry, I'm going to keep on saying tenant, apologies. But this applicant has made an inquiry, whether it's walking through the door, whether it's picking up the phone, giving you guys a call, or whether it's through spare room or, you know, one of these other marketing channels. Provided you guys have discussed with this applicant and come to an agreement of the date and the time that they would like to attend a viewing appointment at the property that they've made an inquiry for, when you're inside the applicant's profile, okay, as you guys have probably already noticed, you've got the option here to add a viewing to this applicant, okay? And as per our tenancy journey illustration that I showed earlier, that is the next logical step in the process, right? So we have the applicant that's generated an Arthur. We've created the applicant's profile. We then now need to progress them to create a viewing, okay? Now, in order to do that, you've just got the option here to add a viewing against the applicant directly. So if we then click into add a viewing, you will then be met with this page, right, where you can see that Arthur will ask you to allocate a unit to this particular viewing appointment. Okay, so we'll never ask you guys to allocate a property because for those of you that aren't aware, that might be new to the system, we always classify a unit as your rentable space in Arthur. Okay, so Arthur will never ask you to allocate a viewing appointment to a property because that just doesn't make any sense. Okay, so in this case, as you can see, we've got a long list of all the different units that we've got on the system already. Okay, so we've got a long list. You could just type in the first couple of letters if you wish. So let's just put flat 1, 55 Block Street. Okay. As you can see just beneath that, it will ask you to define a status. Now, like I mentioned, as per my personal recommendation and advice, I would always recommend to only add the viewing once you guys have confirmed with the applicant the date and the time for that viewing appointment. Okay, it just makes your life a bit easier instead of having to create the viewing, put it as pending, then confirm, then come back into Arthur and amend those details. Okay, so I would just recommend adding it as confirmed, as in when you confirm that over the phone or via email. It's up to you. Now, Arthur will also ask you to define the date and the time that the viewing will be taking place. Okay, so in this case, if we click into viewing date, viewing time, obviously, once you guys have come to the agreement with the applicant, you can input those details here. So let's say 1st of December, sorry, at 10 a.m. Okay, and the duration is 30 minutes in this case. Now, you guys can include the offer that the applicant, I guess, would be putting down for the particular unit that they're viewing. So let's say this is £1,200 a month. Okay, and you can also include a proposed moving date as per, I guess, if you've discussed this between yourself and the applicant prior to confirming the viewing. Okay, so at least again, this information is going to be useful for you guys and your team to be able to keep track of this information, obviously, because I'm sure, yeah, you probably won't want to keep on having your applicant reiterate exactly what they've said in the past. So you've got this all in one place. And then also just beneath here, you've then got the option to assign this particular viewing to a member of the team. So depending on the team and how big you are, you might have, you know, specific individuals within a viewing department or those that have viewings as part of their responsibilities. So if you're in the office, for example, and you've picked up a call and somebody's confirmed a viewing appointment at a specific address, you can always assign it to another member of the team. And that way, this will then show up on their calendar. Okay, on their Arthur Manager app once they download it. Okay, so I'll leave it as myself. You can include a source for that particular viewing. So again, where the viewing has come from. So the only, I guess, apart from the fact that this is good information to have, but also it might be useful to run reports to actually see all of the viewings that happened in a certain month and exactly where the sources come from. So it might be quite useful for insights purposes. For you guys to see exactly which portal or channel is giving you guys the best value for money. Okay. But again, this is optional information, and you guys can also add any notes that you'd like to apply to the viewing. And this might be obviously quite relevant for you guys, obviously, just to gather as much information to do with the applicant itself, their requirements, what they're particularly interested in within the property. So again, maybe you might put in the fact that this applicant has kids, so maybe has 3 kids, interested in the garden and so on. Okay, but also this might be particularly useful if, for instance, you've picked up the phone. Somebody's obviously, you've scheduled a viewing in, but you've scheduled this in on behalf of someone else on your team. So somebody else on your team will actually be conducting that viewing. Now, in that case, because they haven't actually spoken to the applicant initially, and you have, then you can actually upload all this information here, ready for this person once they go to conduct their viewing to view. So then that way they know what to expect. Okay, so just a thought there, that might be quite a good way to communicate that information. Okay, now just beneath that, this is what I was mentioning earlier about automations. Okay, so I'm sure that probably a lot of you have seen this. I'm sure maybe some of you haven't if you are new to Arthur. But like I mentioned earlier, Arthur, one of its main, I guess, selling points, if you will, is the fact that you can automate a lot of the admin type tasks just by clicking a button. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a list here of predefined and pre-written out templated emails or texts that I've created. And again, you guys have the facility to create and amend and make your own. And quite simply, if I tick any of these boxes prior to creating my viewing, Arthur would then push these out automatically. Okay. So some of the examples in this case that might be quite relevant for you guys would be, for instance, at the top, I've got an email that would go out to the applicant that I have assigned to this viewing. Okay, so if you hover over the eye icon, so just as an example, I can actually show you guys what this says. And again, you guys can change this if you wish, it's completely up to you. But as you can see, this will pull out an email, or push through an email, should I say, pulling out this information at the top, saying confirming your viewing appointment. And then within the body, you'll see that it says, dear first name, which in this case, it will automatically pull in the applicant's first name. In this case, it's being Teddy. This email is to confirm your viewing at the address, on the viewing date, at the viewing time. Now, just to let you guys know, if you aren't aware, so with our automation engine, the whole idea of us being able to allow you guys to create templated emails that can send out automatically, for instance, in this case, as and when you create a viewing. So within these emails, we have what we call variables, and that's what you guys can see in front of you with regards to these blue sort of tabs. And what these are, well, it says it in the name pretty much, but any single time you create this particular email, as in when you go to create a viewing, Arthur's going to automatically pull in the appropriate information that is obviously related to this viewing. So in this case, first name will relate to Teddy. Confirming your viewing appointment at, it will pull through the entire address of the unit that we've defined as and when we were creating our viewing. And the viewing date and the viewing time is information as well that it will pull through automatically from the viewing. Okay, so this information, just if you guys didn't realize, is all up here. So the unit address, right, we've attached it up here, the viewing date and viewing time, that will automatically feed into our email and send us a viewing confirmation to our applicant to let them know exactly where their viewing will be taking place and what date and what time. Okay, so yeah, if I wanted to send that out, that's perfect. We'll have that go out as soon as we create the viewing. As you can see, I've got another email that might go out to if there is a current tenant living within the unit, being flat 155 Block Street. If the tenancy hasn't come to an end yet, and you guys are sort of thinking ahead and marketing the unit, let's say because the tenancy ends halfway through next month, so you want to process all your viewings just so that way you avoid any void periods, then if there is an active tenant, or tenants, should I say, within the current unit, then you can tick this box and that will send them a one-way email telling them that you guys will have a viewing appointment scheduled on this date at this time at their unit, just to let them know, right? Now, alongside that as well, so if you guys, so if you guys are aware, obviously, as I mentioned, we've got within Arthur, we've got obviously our units, but with the units, they're all connected to a property, right, of some sort. So as you can see, we've got an email, or I've got an email, should I say, that is set up to let all of the other tenants within the entire property know that this viewing is taking place. Now, it might not be relevant to a lot of you guys, but this might be particularly relevant for those of you that deal with HMOs, okay, or manage HMOs, whereby you've got obviously tenants in room 2, room 3, room 4, room 5 that might want to actually be aware that a viewing will be taking place at room 1. So if that is the situation, then this will be particularly relevant. But if in this case, if it is a block of flats, then you don't need to let everybody else know within flat 2, 3, 4, and so on that a viewing is taking place at flat 1. Okay, probably don't really need to know that information. And also just beneath that, I've got a confirmation text of the viewing details going out to my viewer or the applicant that's made the inquiry. Okay, so again, if you wanted it to work twofold, where an email will go out, but simultaneously a text message will go out to that applicant, then you can have both, right? It's completely up to you. Just to let you know, on top of that is the fact that with SMS texts, these do cost. So we do have a third-party provider that we do integrate with called Fast SMS. So if you guys did want to send out automated texts, then you would need to go via the Arthur store and purchase credits in order for those to run. Okay, so yeah, just letting you guys know that. And also, as you can see just beneath that, I've got a notification in this case that will go out to the person assigned to conduct the viewing. So it might be relevant if, like I mentioned earlier, if somebody is creating a viewing on behalf of another property manager or another letting agent, letting negotiator, sorry, then this might be useful, because in that way you guys can obviously notify them that a viewing has been created and assigned to them, and so on. And also, as you can see down here, I've just created a separate email to notify my landlord for flat 1 that a viewing will be taking place at this date on this time. Okay, so again, this one's been added in by myself, and you guys can obviously tailor the automations around viewings to suit, I guess, your particular processes. But yeah, you can always use the live chat or use tutorials to ask us any questions just relating to automations if you wanted to build those up. Okay. Now, just for the sake of this example, I will just leave this as notifying my viewer of the appointment and also a notification to the property manager. Now, once we go ahead and submit, as you can see on the right-hand side, it will typically show up with the, I guess, the automations that have been confirmed, have actually sent out. Okay, and just to show you guys as well, I've just actually created this as the Arthur test inbox. As you can see, I've assigned it to my applicant, just to show you guys exactly what would come through. So as you can see, this is an email that's come out from my company, being Ultimate Properties Limited, and it says, "Dear Teddy, this email is to confirm your viewing at flat 1, 55 Block Street, London, NE whatever, on the 1st of December at 10 AM. Okay, so as you can see, just based on that automation with the different variables, the variables have obviously worked in a way that has pulled that information that is relevant to that viewing and that viewing only. Okay, so it's sent out to Teddy's inbox like this. Okay, cool. Now, as I mentioned, following on from adding in the applicant, right, with very basic details, we then confirm with the applicant over the phone, discuss exactly a time and date that they would like to attend the unit to view it. Okay, we've gone into Arthur, we've created our viewing, and we've allowed those automated emails to run to obviously make our lives a bit easier. Okay, now following on from the viewing, hypothetically, let's say that Teddy really liked flat 1, and he actually wanted to move along with the process. Okay, now at this stage, as per the tenancy onboarding process within Arthur, the next logical step would be to push this applicant from being an applicant to what we call a prospective tenant. Okay, now in order to do that, you guys can obviously as you can see within the applicant profile, we can simply just create a tenancy, as you can see here, but obviously you won't be on this page, most likely. So just to let you guys know, if, for example, this happened days later, go back into clients, go into applicants, okay? And as you can see from here, okay, we can tick this box and simply create a tenancy from here, okay? Now, if we go ahead and create that tenancy, okay, obviously you guys have probably created many tenancies now, so I'm sure there's certain elements of this tenancy setup screen that you guys probably miss out or just sort of skip past, okay? Now, what we're going to do is just basically go through sort of creating a tenancy. I won't mention everything on this page, but this is obviously just the next step in the process, but I will be discussing the different tenancy statuses, okay? Now, in terms of tenancy type, let's just call it residential private. Okay, it will then ask us to select a unit to allocate to this particular, I guess, tenancy. So just to let you guys know, probably some of you might have thought, oh, why, you know, in this case, because we've created a tenancy against Teddy specifically, why hasn't it allocated the unit that he viewed at? Now, the reason why that is because you might have one applicant that views multiple units or multiple properties. So in that case, Arthur obviously just gives you the facility to define exactly which unit they decided to go with. Okay, so in this case, just type in the first couple of letters, let's say flat 155 Block Street. You've got tenancy details down here, obviously AST, depending on the type of contract that you guys deal with. I will just leave it as AST. Now, this is very, very important as per the tenancy onboarding process, as we mentioned, because following on from an applicant, we would create what we call a prospective tenancy. Okay, now just to break these down, prospective tenancy in this case is the most relevant status to go for. Reason being is because what we define as a prospective tenancy in Arthur is a tenancy that, well, in this case, it's not yet a tenancy, but it's when an applicant goes for a viewing in this case, right? They give verbal confirmation that they would like to move ahead with that particular unit and go ahead and move on with the process. So in this case, they're not actually considered just a simple applicant that's made an inquiry anymore. They've got more of a registered interest because they've actually viewed the unit, okay? But at this stage, they haven't actually passed their referencing, nor have they signed any of their agreements, whether it's the guarantor form or the tenancy agreement and so on. Okay, so what we would consider them is a prospective tenancy, okay? Now, off the back end of this, just to let you guys know, if you add in a prospective tenancy on Arthur, and let's say hypothetically they do in fact fail their referencing, then you can update their status from prospective to rejected, okay? So just FYI. And yeah, I will show you guys where we can do this in a little bit once we go forward with the process. But yeah, prospective, just always remember this is following on from reviewing and they haven't yet passed their referencing, nor have they signed their agreement. Now, just to let you guys know, following on from that process, and again, I'm going to reiterate this at a later point anyway, but following on from prospective tenancy, that will then allow the tenancy to push forward to approved. Now, approved is, as I mentioned with prospective, they haven't passed their checks, they haven't signed their agreements. Approved at this stage, they have. Okay, so in Arthur's terms, an approved tenancy would have obviously signed everything. They're definitely going to move in, or at least from face value. They've passed everything, so they've signed everything. They're 100% moving in, but their move-in date is at some point in the future. Okay, or their start date, should I say? And then yeah, current is obviously a tenancy that has in fact passed the approved stage, but they have started their tenancy's fixed term. Okay, but yeah, in this case, we'll just start off with prospective. Okay, so that's obviously very relevant in this case for Teddy because he's just passed on from his viewing. Okay. Now, on the right-hand side, you guys can obviously define the terms of the agreement. At this stage, you might not know them exactly, but you can always come back and edit them at a later point. But in this case, let's just say that they're due to move in on the 12th. And the fixed term in this case, I will just set to 6 months. Okay, and then it should auto-calculate the end date for you. Now, if there's a break clause within that contract, obviously include that break clause here, and you can again leverage the automations to allow for notifications, 30 days before or 7 days before that particular clause will be coming into effect. And yeah, you can include a rent review date for that contract if that applies as well. Okay. Now, just beneath that, as you can see, you can define how many tenants are part of the agreement. Now, just because, well, in this case, I'm going to leave it as one because obviously Teddy was just the one applicant. On the second page, you guys can define the financial element to the contract. So how often you take your rent. So in this case, I'm just going to say monthly, $750. And also how much you take for a registered deposit charge as well. Okay. And yeah, bank account, just always remember that's exactly where you guys are receiving your rents into. And same concept, the deposit account, that will be where you guys receive your registered deposit into. Okay. Now, on the third page, you guys will be able to see here that Teddy's details have actually pre-populated as the tenant one. Okay. Now, the reason why it's done that automatically is because of the fact that on the applicant's page, we went and ticked against Teddy and created a tenancy. So in doing that, obviously Arthur just applies Teddy's details as an applicant, as the applicant to a tenant for you. Okay. But yeah, you've got additional information down here that you can add in. It's completely up to you. And then just beneath that, you can define the charges and so on, but that's not what this, that's not what we're going to cover during this session. But yeah, third page is typically tenant details and the charges allocated to that tenant. And then fourth page is just looking at any sort of moving transactions that you'd like to apply to the tenant. And also at the bottom, this is where you guys can again include any automations that you would like Arthur to process as in when you create this prospective tenancy. Okay. Now, just to actually draw your attention to these, as you can see, I've got 3 here, right, that show up. Now, change unit status to under offer. So typically, our flat 155 Block Street, it might be available at this stage, right, because there's no actual tenant in there. So in that case, we can have Arthur automatically update the status from available to under offer because that's in line with the fact that we're creating a prospective tenancy and it's in the process of onboarding. But just beneath that, following on from the process of them going for a viewing, saying that they'd like to move ahead with the process of moving in, as you can see, I've got a next steps email that's actually been pre-populated here. So again, it's a templated email that I've created and you guys can create your own as well. But if I just hover over the eye icon, okay, as you guys can see, I've got a pre-populated email here, right? So again, similar concept to what we looked at with viewings, right? So I've created a subject line saying next steps for moving into, and then the unit address will automatically fill in for us. And then the body will say, hi, Teddy, in this case, thank you for viewing that address. The following steps are detailed below. Please finish them within the next 5 working days so you can get moved in. As you can see, I've asked the Teddy in this case to pay their holding deposit. Whether you guys take a holding deposit or not, again, you guys can define your steps as you wish. But the main thing within this email that I wanted to touch on is what you guys can see just below that. Okay, so this is what we call our applicant form. Okay, so just to let you guys know, if you aren't aware, we have an applicant web form that you guys can connect to your account. Okay, and in doing so, you guys can send out the URL link to any of your applicants that you're onboarding, requesting more information from them, following on from them, going through the viewing process. Okay, so obviously, as you saw, when we first initially created our applicant, I advised you guys to just, I guess, add in very, very basic details. And that's probably the only details you guys have at the stage before viewing. Because if you wasted time gaining more information, uploading it onto Arthur, and the applicant sort of turned around after the viewing and said they're not happy to sort of move ahead, then it's just a lot of wasted time. So initially adding in very basic details for the purposes of viewings, moving forward after that, that allows us to create our prospective tenancy with their details already predefined, but also send out an application form for them to fill in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to send this email out and I'm going to show you how it populates here, and I'm going to follow through the process from Teddy's side and what they need to do as a tenant or an applicant. Okay, so we'll leave this ticked. As you can see, I've created a task as well. So I did mention earlier with regards to automations, this can be in the form of any form of messaging, whether it's a text message or an email or a notification, but also you guys can have an automated task generate, in this case, as and when you create a prospective tenancy, with a predefined checklist of things that you guys need to cover as part of that onboarding process, okay? So in this case, I mean, I will leave this unticked because we're not really going to follow that through. But in this case, I just wanted to show you guys the next steps email, and we'll go ahead and add our tenancy. So once we add our prospective tenancy, it will look something like this, right? So as you guys can see, there's a lot of the information that we've already pre-filled, which in this case include, you know, the start dates and end dates for the tenancy agreement, the address that the tenancy agreement is attached to, tenants' names, tenants' details, so on, right? But if we now circle back to what the applicant, in this case being Teddy, has in fact received from you guys as per that next steps email, it will look something like this. Okay, so if I click into here, as you can see, it will pull through with that information as mentioned. So it will say next steps for moving into flat 1, 55 Block Street. Hi Teddy, thank you for viewing this. Please pay your holding deposit. Please fill out the application form. Now, if we just skip the holding deposit, just because that's a fake account, that's not going to go anywhere. But yeah, if they click into this link, it will take them to this page. Okay, now it's going to ask them to submit their email. Okay, now within their email, obviously that's just going to be their email that you've already attached here. Right, so I'm just going to copy and paste the tenant's email just to populate that in there. So once they set this, once they submit their email here, okay, this will then tell them that their access credentials have been emailed to them. So they'll need to go back into their emails to get that code, right? And it will send them something like this. So it will send them an email with a reference code, and it will ask them to retrieve their application. So if they click into this, it will, in fact, actually, I will just copy and paste this into the other one. So once they submit that, okay, as you can see, it will take them to this application form. Now, just to let you guys know, you do in fact have, or at least for those of you that are on either the professional or enterprise subscription, you'll have access to a standardized application form that we have built for all of our clients. I will pop the link in the chat after this, or in fact, if you guys don't have access to that or wanted access to that, come onto the live chat after this and just ask for me, or just maybe just ask how to access your standard application form for you guys to view it. But as you can see, this is one that I've built for myself. So if you guys wanted us to build one for you, we do offer that as a service. It's just a one-off cost, but with that, we can obviously develop this applicant form to have the specific fields that you guys require, and request for your applicants to add in. But as you guys can see, with regards to this application form, I've branded it, I've added in a nice little introduction, and I've got 7 separate fields that I would like my tenant to fill in, okay? As you can see, because we've already added in the very basic details for Teddy initially, right? So we've added in their first name, surname, email address, and number. This information will automatically populate for him when he comes to filling out his form. Okay, so all he needs to do now is update his details rather than just submit a fresh application form. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to go through the required fields just really quickly. I hope there's not too many. That's the street. As I want to show you guys exactly what is received after that. Okay, United Kingdom. As you can see, I've got visa type, whatever it is. As you can see, I've got residential status. I've got, in this case, if they are obviously, if they need to provide their visa, they can obviously upload the attachment. As you can see, if they're a student, they can say yes. And then this will then populate downwards with their status, their university, course name, student number, year, and so on. Okay, so you guys can have the drop downs so as well. And then as you can see, guarantor information, in this case, test, that's street. Didn't realize there were so many asterisks here. Sorry about this. But but yeah, you sort of get the gist with this. It's just a case of them filling out the information that you guys require. And whatever it is.
What it was,
profession type. And yeah, again, with these specific documents, just to let you guys know, if you visit your standard application form, you'll see that a lot of these areas might not be asterisked. But if you wanted them to be asterisked, then we would need to build that form for you. So again, if you guys wanted more information on that, I will leave my email within the chat box towards the end of the session. So feel free to email me and I can give you guys a call, or I can give you more information about it. But in this case, if I just add in this case, let's just put in some of these documents. And then, yeah, at the bottom as well, forms of ID and so on. We'll just add in all of this really quickly, and that should be it, okay? So once they've pretty much filled out all of the, I guess, required fields, or at least what you guys have requested for them to fill out, all they need to do then is save and submit in the bottom right corner, okay? Oh, okay, so I'm just gonna put more. Okay, so if they save and submit in the bottom right corner, okay, this is just the last one. They can go ahead and confirm, okay? And once this has been confirmed, it will then basically show them a submission confirmation here. So your application has been submitted, your property manager will be in touch if further information is required and so on, okay? So now for you guys as property managers, again, through the automations, you guys can have an email set up to send out to somebody from the team to let them know that a new application form has been submitted by Teddy and so on. And also you might choose to actually create an email that can automatically go back to the applicant to say, thank you for submitting your application form. These are the next steps and so on. Okay, so again, the automations in this case, you can leverage to really save you guys a lot of time within your processes. Okay, but if we now revisit our tenancy and we just simply refresh our page, all of Teddy's details should have pulled through, okay? Now, just to show you guys where you guys can see that in a few separate areas. So just to let you guys know, if we go into clients again and go into our applicants, if we go into Teddy, so we find Teddy, where is he? So in this case, if we go into Teddy and we go into personal information, you should be able to see that all of their information has been submitted. So their date of birth, address details, as you can see, I've got guarantor information at the bottom and so on. And all of their attached documents would have fed through here. So again, everything's kept in one place. And also alongside that, as you guys can see now, if I go into his tenancy, his guarantor details are fed through, right? So if you guys actually, as part of your processes, typically might run a credit check against the guarantor, you can always run a credit check directly once they've actually submitted their form. Okay, and also if you go into documents, all of their proof of IDs and so on should be attached as tenancy documents here as well. Okay, so again, this is going to be a nice way to save you guys a lot of time from having to, you know, probably send out a drop form or a Google form or something of that sort, receive that in an email, then come onto Arthur and manually upload those details. Instead, you can connect that URL link to your account, have the applicant form submitted online, wherever they are in the world. If they wanted to do it on their phone or their iPad or their laptop, they can. And then once that's submitted, all of that feeds back into the tenancy to save you guys that extra bit of admin time. Okay. So following on from this, okay, once that application form has been submitted, I appreciate that you guys will probably have specific processes and other things that you might request. But just following on from, I guess, the typical workflow within Arthur. So once we've created our prospective tenancy, typically you guys will do your checks on the tenant or tenants, should I say. So if you guys wanted to, just to let you guys know, if you aren't aware already, we do have integration partners with a few screening companies, namely, one for just credit checks, as I mentioned. So if you guys wanted to process a credit check for this tenant, you can simply just create a credit report here, okay? Now, just to let you guys know, in terms of the credit check, this is simply just a soft credit check. So it will just check, it will just basically arrive at a score based on sort of public data. So it will look at, where they currently live, the property prices in that area, the level of affluence, the, I guess the crime rate, things like that, right? It's got a number of different key metrics that that it uses in order to arrive at a particular score. Okay. Now, just to let you guys know, we do have all of this information on our Arthur store. So if you guys wanted to check out exactly who we integrate with for credit checks, you can do. The company that we do integrate with is called TransUnion. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of them, but if you go into screenings here, you can see credit checks. This is sort of the overview in terms of what they use in order to arrive at the credit check score. And also it gives you a direct link to their website down here if you wanted more information about what they do, and maybe more information on what they use as far as metrics go. But yeah, as you can see, it is chargeable. So again, because this is not an Arthur product, we simply just integrate with an external provider. You guys can obviously pay as you go, so you can buy one credit check and obviously use that for £4.75 plus VAT. Or if you buy in bulk, then obviously that unit price, it goes down obviously quite considerably. Okay. Now, I appreciate credit checks might not be, I guess, the highest amount of reassurance for you guys on whether this particular tenant will become a good tenant or a bad tenant. So you do have another option. Instead of actually processing a credit check, you guys can process a reference through Arthur. Okay. So a full comprehensive tenancy reference, you guys can push out from the Arthur system to, again, one of our integration providers called Advanced Rent. So they actually offer the service of processing your tenancy reference, a full background check. It goes through a 6-year credit history check. They obtain a landlord reference. They do income and employee verification, suitability, sort of affordability analysis, and so on. So they actually do a full comprehensive check on that particular tenant or applicant, should I say, to arrive at a score that obviously reflects based on all the information gathered, right? So obviously that is going through a separate company called Advanced Rent, and the same concept as that. If you go to our Arthur store, you guys can in fact view within the screening section the tenant referencing provider that we integrate with. So as you guys can see, it's Advanced Rent, that's the company. You've got a direct link to their website, and it does give you a full breakdown in terms of what they actually use to arrive at the score. Okay, so again, they produce a full report, obviously based on the fact that they have to obtain a lot of information, and it's not just public information like the screening, like the credit checks do. This obviously typically takes longer because it actually involves a human being doing all of this chasing for you. Okay, so obtaining the landlord reference, going through sort of the guarantor and so on and so forth. So there's a lot that goes into that, and obviously hence why that's reflected in the price. Okay, but if you wanted to obviously reference this particular tenancy, you can go into here, type in the tenancy reference number, which in this case, I'm just looking at the top left corner here. So if I just type in 1168, it will then pull up with Teddy, our tenant, and then it will take us to this page. Oh, actually, yeah, it will take us to a page where it just asks us to confirm to pay, right? But obviously in this case, I don't have any payment details, so it won't take me there. But yeah, you get the gist. You can obviously go through the Arthur store, have a look at the information there, obviously ask us questions, be it on live chat or directly email me, and then I'll be more than happy to shed light on that. Okay, but yeah, if the references have passed, right, again, you guys can either choose to, well, if they've passed or failed, you can either choose to contact the applicant outside of Arthur, or send them a message within Arthur. It's up to you. Or you can in fact use, again, the automations. So if you wanted to leverage automations, in this case, to push out an automated response to tell them whether they've passed or failed, you can in fact just click either passed or failed here. And again, you guys can edit that email if you wish, right? But that email is pre-populated based on the email templates that we provide to all of our clients as soon as they start up with Arthur. okay? But that will be within your automation engine, okay? And just FYI, once Advanced Rent produces that report will be sent directly to your email, but also it will feed back into Arthur and store as a document within that tenancy. Okay, so just FYI, you'll get it into two channels. Okay. Cool. I see there's 10 questions. I won't open them now. We will spend some time at the end just to kind of go through a Q&A. Just to let you guys know, this was scheduled till 12. I think that's probably not enough time. I'm forecasting till 12:30 approximately, but feel free to obviously leave. This will be recorded, so you guys can obviously look back at this if you do have meetings or other commitments at 12. Okay. Cool. Now, following on from this process, as I mentioned, in terms of a prospective tenancy, right, at this stage, we needed to obviously process our referencing, which we've just discussed, can either be done within Arthur, or if you guys have your own internal checks that you are more than happy to sort of go down, then you can obviously do that externally from Arthur. And then obviously in this case, if they pass their referencing, then great. If they don't, then you can simply update their status, as I mentioned, from prospective to rejected, and then close them off. Okay, so then that way, this won't generate any charges, and it will also change the unit status from under offer to available. Okay. Cool. Now, following on from this, as I mentioned, part of the prospective tenancy tag is the fact that they haven't passed their referencing, which in this case they might have. Let's say hypothetically they have, but also they haven't actually signed their agreements. Okay, so in this case, be it their guarantor forms that you need to send out to their guarantors or their tenancy agreement, right? So just to let you guys know, if you aren't aware already, but Arthur does have a very powerful tool called Mail Merge, right? And with that, it allows you guys to create your documents, such as your ASTs or your guarantor agreements, within minutes or within seconds, should I say, and process that document and send that out for digital signature all through within the system to your tenants, okay, or their guarantors. So just to let you guys know, if you look into where it says documents here on the left, and we go into where it says mail merge templates, this is where you guys can actually upload a set of different templated agreements that, again, you can create, you can upload, and that way, once they're uploaded here, you guys can then push this or process this, should I say, against any one of your tenancies at any point. Okay, and the idea is to have all of that information populate onto that specific agreement within seconds. Okay, so saving you guys a lot of time. Now, what I mean by templates is the idea of these documents that you guys have. You guys can actually upload what we call variables within those documents. So it's very, very similar to how those templated emails work, where it pulls through Teddy's name, it pulls through the address that he's viewing, and so on and so forth. With these variables, it works in the same way, except you'll be populating these variables into your agreements, right? And then uploading them onto Arthur, so then it could do the exact same thing, okay? So if I just really quickly show you guys where to find those variables, right? On the right-hand side, you've got a list of different variables that you can access. Now, just to let you guys know, I would probably say 95% of the variables that you guys need, especially for any tenancy type document, such as an AST or such as a guarantor form, if you need to access variables to populate into your agreement, make sure to go via this tenancy variables, the tenancy variables, rather than any of the unit or property or notice variables and so on. Okay. The reason why is because when you go to run your agreements, okay, if they're tenancy related, then you'll be running the agreements against the tenancy. And in order for the information to populate into your agreement, it needs to be connected to that tenancy. Okay, so you need to pull through the tenancy variables in this case. Okay, so just to let you guys know, you can click into here. You've got a list of different categories that these variables will be part of. Okay, so you can actually see here, in general, that will probably be where most of your variables can be found, but things like, let's say the unit address, okay? So this variable here, if we populate that into our tenancy agreement, okay, then whenever we go to run our tenancy agreement, it will always pull through the entire address, being the first line of address, second line of address, county, country, postcode, and so on. Okay, so that one variable will pull all of that information. Okay, as you can see, and it will give you an example on the right-hand side. You might have other information within your tenancy agreement that might change, such as, let's say, the rent amount. Okay, that will obviously be something that changes per agreement. So you can just copy and paste this into the field where you would like the rent amount to always populate into. Frequency as well. So, for example, whether they pay monthly, quarterly, half yearly, once only, whatever it is. Again, Arthur can populate that information based on the information you add to the tenancy. And yeah, the idea here is, like I said, you'll have variables here within the system that you guys can populate onto your agreement and upload onto Arthur. Okay, so if you guys just bear with me 1 second, I'm actually just going to download my test AST just to show you guys what it looks like. And that way, maybe give you guys an idea of how yours might look like once you've finished it. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, so so as you guys can see here, this is my virtual manager AST. It's just a test AST, which I've downloaded from Arthur, and I've just added in certain variables where I see information changing per agreement. So as you can see, in this case, for you guys, a lot of you guys are probably property managers rather than self-managed landlords. So in that case, you might have a different landlord per unit, right? So you'll be managing on behalf of landlords. So in that case, if you do, then typically you can, you'll obviously need to have the variable for a different owner, okay, just so that way it will populate with the correct owner, depending on the tenancy that you're running the tenancy agreement against. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the landlord's name that will change. I've got our tenant's name that will change. Of course, tenants will always be different per agreement. I've got the start dates of the agreement and the end dates of the agreement changing. Okay, the rent amount, how frequent we take that rent amount, the deposit amount, and also at the bottom, we've then got our signature fields, who, again, once I follow through from this process, this is what's going to allow us to send out this document once it's all merged with the information that we need through the system and for digital signature. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a variable here for our tenant's name, which will automatically populate with their full name. Also the signature just beneath it, as you can see, I've listed them as signer one. Okay, meaning that once we go through and process this as part of our agreement that we're going to send out for signing, we will always have our tenant as signer one. Okay, and then as you can see, I've got my landlord who will be signer two, and me as a property manager, quote unquote, will be signer three. Okay, so once this has been finalized by you guys and uploaded to the system, just to let you guys know as well, we do offer a service as well to build these for you. So if you guys don't want to do it yourselves and instead want us to do it, or you might have already tried and you might have been finding troubles or whatever, just obviously leave it to us, and we're more than happy to do that for you. Again, same with the applicant form, it is a one-off cost, but once that's been paid, then that's there ready on your account, ready to run at any time. Okay, so yeah, it's just a one-off cost. But yeah, once this is obviously uploaded onto the system, as you guys can see, I've uploaded my AST here. It's a simple case now that because that template's been there, it's predefined with the different fields that we require, changing per agreement. All we need to do now is make sure that our tenancy has been uploaded onto Arthur and then just run that mail merge against it. Okay, so if we go back to our tenancy here, okay, so if we go back to our tenancy, our prospective tenancy, in order to run the mail merge against this tenancy, all we need to do is go down to where it says documents, and in the middle, you'll see an option to mail merge. If we click into mail merge, it will ask us to define what the document's called. So in this case, I'm just going to call this AST. It will ask us to define the document type. Contract is fine. You can add your own document types on Arthur as well. So I've added in AST in this case because a contract can be deemed as various different types of contracts. So I wanted to keep it as specific as possible. And then as you can see just beneath that, this is where Arthur gives you the option to select which template, based on the mail merge templates you've got on your account, you would like to merge against this tenancy. Okay, so in this case, because we're running an AST, I would like to merge that AST and get all of the information from the tenancy that we've already uploaded onto our agreement within seconds. Okay. Now, if we select continue, we don't need to discuss that at this stage. Now, once we're on this page, if you guys wanted to create this document and also create a digital signature for the document to have it signed by your tenant, then leave this ticked and simply just create the document down here. Okay. Now, what this will do is it will take us to this page where it will show us, we've got 3 separate signature fields, right? We've got signer 1, signer 2, signer 3. But also, just beneath that, it gives us a preview of the mail merge template with the information from our tenancy. Okay, so as you can see, those variables have disappeared and instead appeared with the information that is connected to the tenancy that we're running this agreement against. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the landlord name, which would have been the landlord that is connected to flat 1, 55 Block Street. We've got Teddy being our tenant. We've got the start date and the end date for the tenancy agreement that has automatically pulled through for us. We've got the rent amount of $750 a month. We've got their deposit amount, and then also at the bottom we've got the tenant's name being Teddy. And as you can see just beneath that, we've got signer 1. So make sure from here that we are selecting from this drop down that Teddy is signer 1. Okay. We've got the landlord name being Ryan, in this case myself, but signer 2. So make sure that under signer 2 we're selecting from our property owners this person. Okay. And then if we scroll all the way down, then we've got in this case a property manager being signer 3, so we can select anybody from our team. Okay. Now, just to let you guys know, we integrate with Signable. Okay, so what you guys are doing here is you're using Arthur to obviously mail merge your template with the information that you need from this tenancy, creating that document, and then we've got an integration with Signable that allows you to push this document from Arthur into Signable, and then obviously process, and obviously Signable will take it from there and process the signatures for you. Okay, so with regards to signer 1, signer 2, signer 3, it is on a round robin basis. So signer 1 will receive it first, right? They will then sign it. Once they sign it, it then transfers over to the second signer. Once that person then signs it, it transfers over to the last signer, and so on. Okay. So once we've defined the order, we've double checked all the information is pulled through correctly, then we just simply select next. Once we go onto this page, now you guys have the facility here to actually attach any documents that you would like to go alongside this particular AST. Okay, so obviously for Teddy, as a tenant that you guys are onboarding, you might want to attach a how to rent guide. You might want to attach maybe a tenant schedule of fees, a copy of the EPC, a copy of the gas safety, and so on. So in that, you guys can, of course, just upload your documents. Okay, so again, just make sure that those documents are either uploaded to the property level, the unit level, or the tenancy that you guys are running this agreement against. Okay, so for example, if it was a how to rent guide, or if it was a tenant schedule of fees, because that might be more relevant to just the tenancy, I would recommend going into the document section of the tenancy and uploading it there. But things like the EPC or the gas safety, these are certificates that relate to either the property or the unit. So you should upload those certificates at that level. Okay, but in doing so, as long as those documents are either one of those 3 levels, being the property, the unit, or the tenancy level, that are connected to this tenancy itself, then it should show up automatically here that you can obviously just tick box, tick box, tick box. I would like to attach these. Okay, but yeah, if you can't find them and you might have attached them somewhere else, you can always just show all documents, and this will just show you all of the different documents across the entire portfolio. So I would just select this one and this one, for example, right? Actually, it might not let me attach that. We'll just attach these two. So if we add selected, right? So we've got two documents that we'd like to attach to this particular envelope with this AST that we're sending out. Now here, as you can see just above, you can actually type out a nice little personalized message that will be received by each recipient prior to them actually signing their agreement. So it might say, hi there, you can obviously put in their first name, please find your tenancy agreement attached for, and then you might put flat 1, 55 Block Street and so on, right? It's completely up to you, or you can just leave it as plain and simple as please sign here, right? But yeah, I just wanted to just go the extra mile in this case. Now, once you select next, you will then be faced with this screen. As you guys can see, it's just a confirmation page, which asks you to confirm the recipients, their email addresses, and the order. Okay, so making sure that they're in the correct order. It's asking you to just confirm that the attachments have pulled through correctly. So as you can see, this obviously would say, you know, your EPC, your how to rent guide, your gas safety, whatever it is. These are obviously just test documents. And then on the right-hand side, it will tell you how many available credits you have and how many it costs to produce this envelope and send it out through Signable. Okay. Now, again, similar to how the screenings work with the referencing or the credit checks, you guys can basically just purchase envelopes. So from the Arthur store, so if we just go to the Arthur store again, as you can see, we've got a list of all the different products that we either own ourselves and provide to you guys as clients, or some of the products that obviously are just native connections to separate providers, which in this case, if we look at the digital signature, you guys can see here that we've got an integration with Signable. And it basically will show exactly sort of, you know, who Signable are, what the integration entails and so on, and also all the pricing on the right hand side. So yeah, as you can see, it's one envelope for £1.75 plus VAT, but if you buy in bulk, so very similar to with the credit checks and the text messages, if you buy in bulk, then it will drastically drop in terms of unit price. Okay, and just to clarify, one envelope is just basically one document. One document that needs signing, right? So yeah, 45p plus VAT. But beyond that, once you send this out, I'm not going to confirm and send this just because it's going to end up going nowhere. But that's one part of this Signable integration, is the fact that it will obviously send out through the system. It saves you from having to have a separate subscription elsewhere, and obviously using a separate system to edit your documents, upload them elsewhere, get them signed, and so on. Now, once you send them out through the Arthur system, you do in fact have a tracker for all of your documents within the document section here. So if you look underneath where it says documents, you've got digital signature, right? It will actually take you to a page where you've got all of the different documents that you guys have sent out through the system at any point, via Signable, of course. And it will categorize them by the tenancy, where that tenancy resides, the document name, how many of those recipients, who the recipients are, and how many of those recipients have signed out of the total number so far. Okay, and as well as that, you can obviously use other information such as the status and the date it was submitted. Now, when you guys initially send it, right, if we look at just sent and processing, it will show up something like this, right? So as you can see, I can see from here that we've got 2 recipients, none of them have signed so far. Now, if we click into the eye icon, we can actually see that this document has been sent out to this person, right? And it's still awaiting this person's signature. Okay, so you can actually process and send out a reminder directly via Arthur, which will actually process a separate email from Signable asking them to sign their document. Okay. So yeah, you can process the reminder through Arthur, so you don't need to, again, do this externally. You can do it all within the system. And also, if you guys wanted to view an activity log for that document to see exactly who it's with, what's the hold up, whether they've viewed it, whether it's bounced back, and so on. If you click the drop down, you've got an option here to view the activity log. So if we click into view activity log, we can actually see everything that's happened right from the moment that this document was generated to where it is today. Okay, so as you can see, it's been generated. These two individuals were assigned, right? But it got sent to the first person via email first on this date at this time, all within the same minute. Now, as you can see just beneath that, it tells us that this person has in fact viewed the envelope twice on these, obviously everything's date and time stamped. I sent out a reminder, it sent out a follow-up email to this person, they've opened the document email, you've then sent another reminder and so on, right? So again, the idea here is that Arthur's trying to allow you guys to do everything from one place without the need to go elsewhere and track things from multiple systems, right? I guess that was the goal from the inception, right? So yeah, you guys can obviously track everything from within Arthur. And just to let you guys know that once everybody has signed, so let's say this person is signed, it goes over to this person is signed. Once every recipient has signed their document, this will actually result into Signable sending all of the recipients an individual email with the signed document, as well as any of the attached documents that you might have sent out at that point. So it sends out a confirmation email saying, thank you for signing X, Y, and Z, and it will actually tag all of those documents as PDFs into that email. So obviously the tenant can use that for their own reference and download them. Okay, obviously you guys as recipients will receive that externally as an email as well. But also once it has been signed, so if I just look at one that has been signed for an inventory template, right, that I've sent out a year ago for it to be signed. If you guys go into the tenancy, okay, under documents, once all of you guys have in fact signed that document, then Signable will actually push that document, the signed document, back into Arthur and automatically store it as a tenancy document. Okay, so it further saves you guys having to not only obviously receive that document via Signable, but then having to obviously upload it back into Arthur. It saves you from having to do that. Okay, so you guys will receive it via email from Signable, but simultaneously it will lodge as a tenancy specific document within Arthur as well. Okay, cool. Okay, so just as a last thing to just wrap up, following that, once everything has been signed, and again, if you guys have any additional documents that need signatures, such as a deed of guarantee, for instance, you follow the same process, right? You just go into documents, mail merge it, as long as the guarantor is here, which it should have already been here if the applicant has in fact submitted their application form. So it saves you guys from having to request this and re-upload this into Arthur, because again, the applicants submitted their form, everything feeds into Arthur perfectly. So all you guys need to do then is just to mail merge the guarantor form, send that out, and again, that process follows the same process we've just followed. Okay. Now, once both have been finalized, both have been, your checks are done, and so are the, so is the tenancy agreement, all the other documents that have been signed, and all of that. Then the next step in the process, of course, will be to transfer this status from prospective to approved, okay? Which again, you guys can update from here to reflect that as approved. Obviously, you've got the option to amend start dates and end dates if they're incorrect for whatever reason, and also supply a move-in date if that is relevant to you guys, okay? But as you can see just below that, I've got a list of automations that I've developed based on specifically creating an approved tenancy, okay? So at that stage, you guys might have, a welcome email, as you guys can see that I've pre-templated myself as well, which will look something like this, saying, thank you for signing everything. This is the next steps. You need to collect your keys on this day or this date, whatever it is. But again, yeah, you guys can obviously have a think about that and create these emails and tasks in line with the processes that you guys typically follow. Okay. And yeah, once you do all of this, I will then just update the status. That will then sit as approved, meaning that everything's been signed. They're just waiting on the tenancy start date. And again, you can have Arthur automatically switch this from approved to current on that date that the tenancy begins. Okay, perfect. I think 15 minutes is more than enough time to get through some questions. So guys, if you do have any questions, please let me know. Okay, first question was, I cannot hear you. Sorry about that. I hope you were able to hear me after that, Ellie. Okay, so Laura asked, does an applicant need to download Alpha to be able to read and respond to a message? So good question. So I think this might be in relation to when I created the applicant and I mentioned that you guys can create and post a message. So no is the answer. So when you go ahead and post a message against an applicant, under this section, if we just go back. So when you go to post a message, that's in the form of an email. So they'll actually receive it as an email. And then if they do choose to respond to that email, it will feed back into your message thread that you've initiated in Alpha here. Okay, I didn't actually create the message, but it will actually add into this message thread that you can, of course, just respond to via Arthur if you choose to, or also when they do respond to that email via their email, you will also receive an email into your Outlook with their response. Okay, so you can actually respond via either within Alpha to any responses they make, or via your email or your Outlook. As long as you create the initial thread from Arthur first, then you can actually respond via either channel. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Gemma asked, as a landlord, I would prefer to see their details and have an application form completed before offering them the unit to let. Can this be done before you confirm the tenancy, so after the viewing, but before the offer? Yeah, it's completely up to you. As you mentioned, you might want to process it earlier. That's absolutely fine. At the end of the day, all it is simply a URL link. So the process that I followed was, I guess, just a typical standardized process. After a viewing, you might request more information. If you request this at an earlier stage, you can simply just send them your URL link, which is unique to your account, at the point that you guys will request more information, and then just follow the process after that. Okay. So yeah. Laura asked, can we add the RNLA application form? No. So just to let you guys know, you do, as I mentioned earlier, you'll have a standard application form, which is connected to your account, which will look something like this. In fact, actually, I'll show you guys really quickly. It will look, I just, my one. So this is what yours will look like if it's just a standardized application form. So it will have 10, or in this case, sorry, 14 separate sections. These aren't actually editable. Unfortunately, you can't edit them on this standardized form. If you wanted us to build you a form, that's the only way that you can edit it. But as you can see, there will be a personal details section, contact details, residential status, property specific information. If they click yes, it brings them a drop down. Employment history, employed, yes, it brings them a drop down. Student details on housing benefits, so on and so forth, next of kin, bank details, further reference, and so on. So this is a standardized form. If you guys want, come onto the live chat after this, or drop me an email. It's up to you guys. But yeah, come onto the live chat. It's probably better in case there's quite a lot of you. But come onto the live chat, and then I'll send you an article of how to find your specific application form. But yeah. In fact, actually, I might just do that now. So just to, in fact, if I just share this with you guys just via the chat, this is your links, but you need to make sure that you add your slug here. Okay, so what I mean by slug, where it says add slug in between the forward slashes, you will be able to find your slug within your account here. So if you go inside your Arthur account, your slug would be this. Right, it's basically a unique pathway to your account. So it's the way that that form can find its way, you know, any applicant's details that get submitted will find its way directly into your account and your account only. Okay, so all you need to do is just use that link that I've just uploaded, add your slug into that, into those forward slashes just before the tenant. And then if you submit that, you'll be able to access your form. So you guys can have a play around and obviously submit an application form, see how it feeds through into a system and so on. But yeah, in terms of the RNLA application form, you won't be able to add this, but if you wanted us to build your form with your specific requirements, then I'm going to drop my email as well here, just in case you guys wanted more information or had any other questions following this session. Okay. Does the standard application form have next of kin? Yes, Monica. Sorry, yeah, actually, I just showed you. Yeah, so it does have next of kin information here, so that's fine. Okay, fine. You saw that. Isn't credit check-in included with advanced referencing? Yes. So, Monica, in terms of credit check-in, what we offer with the TransUnion or Call Credit, that company, that's simply just a soft credit check. But if you wanted a full reference, then in that case, obviously just use the full reference in its entirety. That will obviously just, you know, it sort of refrains from you having to administer a credit check. The only situation where I think two of those might be relevant is if you guys have sort of specific seasons where you've got a massive influx of leads, there's some clients that might choose to actually credit check all the leads that are coming through just to make sure that they select those that might be more serious candidates, and then obviously at a later point they might reference them. But yeah, you're quite right. If you wanted to just reference, that obviously cancels out the need to credit check as well. You've answered that question. Okay, fine. I'm going through these questions and I'm answering them and then seeing that you've written that I've answered it. Okay. Laura asked, how long does credit check take through advanced rent? So in terms of advanced rent, because it's a full reference and this is being done by a human, the information that they need to gather obviously might actually make the time frame a bit longer than just, you know, just a simple soft credit check that takes sort of minutes. I can't give you an exact time frame just because of the nature of it. Obviously, them producing this report is completely dependent upon how quickly they can gain that information. So if someone's non-responsive, like the previous landlord, they might be off sick, or you know, they might not have access to their emails and so on. It might take them longer. But what I would recommend doing is if you visit the Arthur store, or just go on to Advanced Rent. Advanced Rent, they've got obviously a website. Just type that in. They have a live chat, so you can actually maybe ask them what is the typical ETA from me creating a reference in Arthur, pushing that through to you guys. But I think they might quote something along the lines of 5 to 7 working days, maybe. But yeah, don't quote me on that. And it might be better off just to, I guess you might be better off just to ask them directly. Alexandra asks, where can we store the tenants' adult children contact details without having them down as tenants? Oh, okay, good question. So what you could do, there's a couple of things that you guys can do. And again, what I'm going to show you, okay, so if we go into a tenancy, if we go into, let's say, Teddy, you can add information, I guess, to the internal notes section. That might be a good way to add that in, or alternatively, you could go into maybe the applicant's profile and maybe store them in the notes section for the adult children's details, or alternatively, there is a function in Arthur called custom fields. Now, the reason why I don't want to sort of advise that being the only way is because of the fact that that's only specific to enterprise subscribers. But with the custom fields, as you guys can see down here, you will have the facility to create a specific field that will populate across all of your different tenancies or applicants on Arthur. So as you can see here, for example, I've got room allocation, right? But I could change that, and instead I can have this as adult children or additional adult children or additional occupiers, for example. So whenever you visit a new tenancy that you're uploading this information against, you'll basically just have this as a field with those fields within just empty for you guys just to type in the information and store there, right? But obviously, yeah, I'm not going to go through exactly how to add those in, but if you wanted more information on that, there is an article that I can send you guys. Again, just use the live chat and maybe just say something along the lines of custom fields mentioned in the webinar, and then I can send you a document on that. Okay, but yeah, either internal notes, custom field if you are on enterprise, or you can go into the applicant's profile and just store them under the internal notes there. Okay. Gemma asked, can Applicancy notes, nope, they cannot. Internal notes are just for you guys as property managers. David said, how do we add an inventory to the property when doing the viewings? So unfortunately, David, we don't have the facility to create pre-tenancy inventory reports in Arthur. So what most of our clients do, I'm not saying that we will not have this in future. It's just not something that we have at the moment. But what I would recommend you do is probably look at a separate system for that, just to produce those pre-tenancy and post-tenancy reports, and then maybe just come into Arthur and upload them as documents after. That's pretty much the main way that our clients do that at the moment. But yeah, there's a couple of other systems that our clients use, like Inventory Base or Inventory Hive, so maybe check them out. Patty asks, can property owner statements be set up to go to property owners each month when their rent is sent out to them? Completely unrelated to what we're covering today. But just to answer your question, in terms of property owner statements to be set up to property owners each month when their rent is sent out to them. So you might be referring to remittance statements. You can, there is a process. It won't be automatic, but when you process your payments to your landlords on a month by month or quarter by quarter basis, there is an option to actually batch send all of those statements in one go to all of your landlords when you're doing your statement run. And also, just to let you know, they will send out via email, but if you get your landlords to download the landlord app, then they can actually view those documents there as well. And also they can print out their full landlord statement if they choose to. So they can actually do that on their own separate portal. Okay. But yeah, sorry, that's just not part of this session. And I'm not even from the financials team, so probably better to ask them. Laura asks, can we link our current signable account? Unfortunately not. If you want the signable integration to work, it will only be available by buying the envelopes from the Arthur store. So if you do currently have envelopes in your other signable account, my recommendation is to probably use them up before you then explore buying them through Arthur, just so that way they don't get lost. But yeah, you can't actually transfer those. You can't even transfer the envelopes over to us, unfortunately, because it's our signable account, our company signable account that we've just integrated to all of our user accounts. Monica asked, documents to attach for tenants when sending an AST. It would be far more helpful if when selecting the documents, the system only return the documents related to the property of that tenant. It does do that, Monica. So yeah, so just to let you know, when I pulled up that screen, it only pulls up the documents to attach that are connected to either the property being 55 Block Street, the flat being flat 1, 55 Block Street, or the tenancy itself. So primarily it will show up with only documents attached to either one of those specific levels. And then, yeah, if you wanted to show all documents to find all of the documents on the system, then by all means, you can go down that route of just clicking that tick box that I showed you guys that said show all documents, and then that will show you a full list of all the documents across the system. So better if that only show documents which are live against relevant. Yeah, that's fine. I've already answered that. Laura said, is signable cheaper via Arthur or more expensive? Oh, that's a good question. I'm not actually even sure. But regardless, I think if it's something like maybe, I don't know, a couple of pennies, maybe, I don't see it. If you buy in bulk, 45p plus VAT for a document to send out, is fairly reasonable. I'm not sure what they actually price them on. But beyond just simply sending it out through Arthur, it's the idea of being able to track everything in one place and avoiding the fact that you'll need to receive a document into your email and then have to sort of rummage around and make sure to upload it onto Arthur. So it's just having, I guess, the peace of mind in that case. So yeah, if they are slightly cheaper, then I think the integration benefit might outweigh the additional cost, perhaps. But again, yeah, it's up to you. Inquire through them if you wish. Gemma says, is there a separate charge for AST, each certificate, floor plan, etc.? Not sure what you mean by that. Separate charge for AST. So we don't charge you for any of this. What I've showed you today. Oh, I see. I think you might be asking in terms of the documents that you attach, like certificates, floor plans. No. So if you're creating, let's say, that AST and you wanted to attach 5 or 6 different documents, that all counts as one envelope, and we charge on one envelope. So one envelope is 45p plus VAT if you buy in bulk. So regardless of how many documents you attach, it won't up that price. Carly asks, how can we save this recording? This recording will be saved and uploaded onto our YouTube channel. So once it is there, I could arrange to have an email sent out to everyone that was in attendance to let them know. I'm not sure whether our marketing team will do that, but I will make a note, send email once webinar uploaded onto YouTube. Okay. Yeah, I'll see if they can actually send out all of those of you who have signed up and attended today an email once the recording's been uploaded to YouTube. Few more. Can signable integration work with contract or invoices? For example, we need our invoices to be signed by 4 people before it's paid. And I use signable to upload the invoices for authorization. I'm wondering how integration. Good question. That's never actually crossed my mind, but no, it wouldn't. It could work, but there's so many different workarounds that I think it just won't make it feasible. So I would probably say no, if I'm honest with you, just because what you would need to do is you would need to add the contractors in each time, that is, as tenants to the tenancy in order to be able to process that as a document and send that out for signature. So yeah, I mean, I think personally that's a bit too much work, but again, you might be in disagreement on that. But yeah, it would just be the case that you add them as additional tenants, and then obviously upload the document against the tenancy, create a digital signature, and send that out to the tenants that, or in this case, the contractors that need to sign. But again, it's not the typical, it's not a standardized part of this integration, unfortunately. Petal said, will you please send the recording? That's fine, Petal, as I mentioned. I will, this will be obviously on our YouTube. Same with Rupinder. Gemma said, the tenant onboarding process task, when you create a tenant, can that task import a subtask template? Yes, so that's something that I kind of skipped past, but just to let you guys know, with regards to tasks, when they generate on the system, as part of, let's say, when we create that tenancy, under tasks, you guys can in fact create a checklist and assign them to tasks. So as you can see, for example, I've got a list of different checklists here. Let's say there might be one for onboarding tenancy, pre-tenancy process, for example, right? So ensure applicant forms being filled out, ensure the applicant has paid a holding deposit, arrange check-ins, so on and so forth, right? Now, when we went to create our tenancy earlier, you guys can have a task with those embedded checklists that generate with that. So I think I might have had tenant onboarding process task. But if I just quickly just put in whatever, okay, that's fine. If I just quickly put in whatever, and let's see with that task generating what that would look like. But yeah, so just to answer your question, that task will generate, and if you do have a checklist attached to that task, then that should generate with it. Okay, so you can basically just check it off as you're going through. So as you'll be able to see once I add this tenancy, if I've in fact created that. So as you can see down here, I've got 2 tasks, one for a pre-tenancy process, which I can click into. And within here, as you can see, I've got those checklists that I can just basically tick off as and when I've done them, right? So shows you who's done what from the team, on what date, what time, and then we can just set this to completed once we've done it, okay? But yeah, if you guys wanted more information on tasks, there's a lot of information on our YouTube page, on our Get Help section down here. And you can always just come onto the live chat and ask one of us about how to create those and integrate them within your automation setup. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, Gemma. David asked, what is the charge to propagate the forms to talk with Arthur? So just to let you know, David, the standardized web form, the application form, so this one that I've put in the chat, that one's free for professional and enterprise subscribers. If you wanted to make edits to this form specifically in terms of the wording or taking out certain fields or adding certain fields in or asterisks in certain fields and so on, then we charge for that as an additional service. Not quite sure of the price off the top of my head. I believe it's something around the region of £228 plus VAT. But with that, obviously, there's a service behind it where you'll probably, we'll have like a setup meeting, discuss your form, the outline of the form. I will then build it. Once I've built it, we'll have a follow-up call where we'll actually go through the process of launching that form in line with your processes. And also, if there is a need to integrate this as part of your automations, then I will be doing that for you as well. So yeah, there is a service as well as obviously the form itself and the process of building it. But yeah, if you want, just drop me an email if there is interest there on that, and then I can always just send you a quote and then we can discuss further. Rupinder asks, can we upload our own tenancy agreement on the envelope? Yes. So again, Arthur, so just to let you guys know, we will never provide you guys with a tenancy agreement. We don't typically provide any of our clients with any legal documents. That's for you guys to upload yourselves. But you guys can obviously go ahead and upload variables into your agreements, upload them onto Arthur, or if you wanted us to do it, then obviously we can do that for you. But again, that costs as well per template. From where you find it on tenancy application form. Sorry, Rupinder, I'm not sure if I understand your other two questions. I think it might be part of the same question, so hopefully I've answered that, but yeah. Claire asks, can you send me this link? That's fine, it will be sent, it will be on our YouTube channel once it's rendered and it's been edited. David said, is there a way to automate giving tenants their notice of tenancy renewal or change in the rent amount? We can see when notifications come through 3 months in advance, but is there a way to automate a response / notice to tenant? Yeah, so again, be it you guys receiving that email or the tenants receiving an automated email, up to you guys. Again, it's all within automations. We can set it based on X amount of days before their tenancy end date. So if you wanted an email to go out to them or a text or both to go out a month before or a couple of weeks before to ask them to reach out to you guys with an answer to whether they'd like to renew or whether they'd like to hand in their notice, then yeah, you can set that up. But again, that's through the automation engine. But yeah, you can obviously just either come onto us, come to the live chat and ask about that, or book in for a tutorial and we can set that up on your account for you. Karen said, yep, okay, yeah, about the recording, that will go through our YouTube channel. Monica, thank you. Is it possible to send out personal information form after tenancy has started? If you're referring to the application form, absolutely. Again, like I said, you can pretty much send out the application form at any time. But just to let you guys know, in terms of the application form, once the applicant or the tenant in this case has submitted their form, and obviously you're connecting that email to it, just remember that they can only ever submit one form and one form only, okay? If it's the case where you've had them submit a form, let's say at the start of the tenancy, and then you required more information because they didn't provide it when they first submitted the form, unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to just add that information again unless they send it either to you guys as an email for you guys to obviously manually upload yourself, or we would have to delete their previous form from the back end in order for them to send out another form, but then they would have to duplicate their information anyway. Okay, so just to let you know. Okay, Laura, thank you. No problem at all, my pleasure. And thank you, Alexandra, as well. I appreciate that. Hi, Robert. Tutorials. So tutorials are dependent on package. Now, we do basically charge them on a standard rate at £45 plus VAT. However, if you're on the standard package, you will be charged. So standard package doesn't get any sort of free tutorial allocation. They simply, you know, if you're on the standard package and you want to have a tutorial session, you'll have to pay £45 plus VAT per tutorial. If you're on the professional, you have one free tutorial per calendar month. So every month you'll have one that generates each month. They don't carry over to any other month. It's simply just one per calendar month. So if you don't use it up for the month of January, it doesn't accumulate to February for 2. You'll just simply have one in February as well. But yeah, on professional, you get one per calendar month for free. Any more above that will be charged at £45 plus VAT. And if you're on enterprise, then you get 3 per calendar month. but then any above that for that particular month will be charged at £45 plus VAT. So yeah, if I always say this, whenever somebody new on boards with us, whether even if you're new or if you just wanted simply more support to begin with, if you don't quite feel confident with what you're doing on Arthur, then I would always recommend upgrading, maybe even just to enterprise. Yeah, it might be additional cost for maybe a couple of months, but you can always downgrade once you feel more confident. As you probably know, our prices and our sort of packages are very flexible. So you can go up and down depending on how you guys feel. But cool. Okay, I think that's all the questions. Okay, fantastic. Well, guys, it was a pleasure. Hopefully this was well received. Like I said, it will probably, our marketing team will end up downloading this, obviously this recording, getting it edited online, having it edited if it does need editing, and then they will upload it onto our YouTube channel. And I will see if I can get an email sent out to everyone just to inform them of that. But let's say next week, for example, that's probably typically how long it will take. But let's say next week, you guys wanted to get a recording, just come onto the live chat and ask one of us. And then if I pick up the chat, then yeah, I'll get in contact with our marketing team and find out what's happening with that. Okay. But yeah, any questions, guys, either feel free to drop us a message on the live chat or use the email that I've dropped in the chat box. If you had any other questions with regards to anything that we've covered in the session, I'll be more than happy to help. Thank you guys very, very soon. Okay, brilliant. All right, guys. Well, yeah, have a lovely rest of the day. We'll speak soon then. Yeah, take care.